Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pints and Politics. We got Representative Mike Weiner and me, Drew Peterson. And was it just this last weekend here we had Congressional District 7 convention for Minnesota. And for those of you who don't know, Congressional District 7 spans from the north border of Minnesota pretty much all the way to the bottom. Huge district, a lot of people. We were both there. Mike, how was your experience with that?
You know, there was discussion, there was talk that it was going to be heated and contentious and, a lot of different, some expectation of what was going to happen at CD7. And my take on this is I thought it was a great convention.
Yeah, I was
Um,
I was told to expect a protest. Like a full-on protest. I don't remember if they said Democrats protesting or someone else, but really after about the fourth hour, things were really calm. There was some contention in the beginning, but things really went smoothly after the fourth hour of the convention. And there were no protesters.
I didn't see any protesters. The night before, we had a nice meal. There was the banquet beforehand, and there was some speculation, of what tomorrow would bring, and a little bit of apprehension because there was candidates running for different positions, and
Mhm.
there's the kind of jockeying for positions that always take place, right? But nobody really knows for sure how things are going to happen. And I think overall the convention went really well.
Yeah.
There's been situations with Otter Tail and how that hasn't been resolved. Well, I think yesterday was a good thing. And not really for the reasons most people would think, but what I see is I saw elections to positions. We had some new people that were elected, but we also saw people that were already on the board in different positions maintain their positions. So it was a blend. It was a mix of not just all new people voting out the old people. It was a blend of people that had been there. So we've got some experience on the board, but then we also have some people who wanted to be in those positions, ran for office. And really, it comes down to the body, the folks that showed up, the delegates who voted for those positions, made their voices heard, and they picked candidates, like I said, which was a nice mix, in my opinion, of new people and people who had shown some experience or, ran a better campaign, connected better with the delegates. And it was good. Overall, it was very good, I thought.
Yeah. It's good to have a mix of like experience and new fresh people, because that way you can kind of teach the new guys coming in how stuff works, right? And
Exactly.
you mentioned Otter Tail, and that was I was not expecting the an outcome like that because I had to be like as a delegate, I had to be on the floor voting. And Otter Tail, they had an issue with their delegation, and that's been going on for a couple of years now. And there is kind of a forcing of a compromise, which they did on the floor, kind of in front of everyone. So we all got to watch them sort it out and do so in a way that was acceptable to everyone. And so there
And
was contention the first like 4 hours of the convention because of that. And once the compromise reached, everything went smoothly. Like there was no fighting, there was no yelling at people. It just things seemed to go a little bit better than last year.
that was my take exactly. And that's where the apprehension came in is what's going to happen with Otter Tail. And the discussion was, do we keep the 2022 delegates? Do you accept the 24, 25 delegates and how this was going to work? And it was basically said that, we need to come to some conclusion here. And the option that was discussed was we don't seat any delegates.
Yeah, and that was, and I think, well, the attitude on the floor was definitely that. And there was someone who made the compromise, and there was a lot of resentment when he withdrew that motion because there was a guy who motioned to unseat all of them, and then he withdrew it. And I think that level of was it just wanting to have it over with in that way was so strong that in order for Artertail to have anything at all, they finally conceded to the body because we tried to do that last year too, I remember. but it didn't happen. And this year it finally did, which forced a compromise, which was heavily needed. And so I'm glad to see that it's done, it's over with, and now that Otter Tail County can move forward and just be a
And
part of
how, what did they end
stuff.
up doing? I think it was the most
Oh yeah.
random, probably the most effective way to really deal with that. I
It was the
do.
most interesting way. They ended up drawing names out of a hat.
Yes, they did. So all of the delegates that were from 2022 to 2025, both of those different groups of delegates put their name in a hat. And I believe the alternates did as well, didn't they? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Everyone from Otter Tail County, guests included, threw their name in that hat.
So they
So
had, I have the numbers written down and I apologize, I didn't bring them with me, but they ended up drawing hats, and out of the whole group of delegates, only 12 didn't get seated, 14 somewhere in there. And
mhm.
they drew the names out of the hat. And when it was all said and done, that was the most random thing that you could do, and probably the most fair. And when everybody
And they
got,
did it in view of the entire elective body, which I
yes,
think was big as well. Transparency in that way.
right. And there was only a few people who kind of balked at the idea and said, no, we want to do it this way or we want to do it that way. But and that's the beauty about a convention. It's really up to the body on how they decide to do what they want to do. You have the opportunity to make your argument, to give your compelling case why we should do one or the other. And when it came right down to it, this is what the body decided. This is what Otter Tail says they would make as a compromise, drew the names out of the hat, seated those delegates, moved forward. The convention took place. And to me, it was a great thing. I saw that. I was proud of the people that worked to make that happen. It puts this kind of disagreement behind us in a lot of ways. And really, what it's got to bring is that focus of what we need to do to win the state of Minnesota. Instead of fighting amongst ourselves, we need to take it to the ballots against the socialists, against the Democrats on the other side. Well, socialist communists on the other side, Comrade Walls and the administration, and focus our attention there instead of the conflict here. And I saw it coming together. I think this was a good thing. But I'm not a delegate. So
Yeah, you
you're
you
on the
had the
floor.
luxury of watching, but also once that compromise was reached, everything went smoothly, and it felt like the whole room was more united, because of that compromise. And so we didn't see the same level of fighting that we saw last year or at the other conventions, even yeah, in the last year. And just kind of there was a lot of talk of unity, saying we can't be divided and whatever, and people lashing out. But again, once that compromise was reached, it's like, well, we can all come together and vote like as a, democratically elected group of delegates. And I know you don't like the word democratically because of the DFL, but essentially that's kind of how it works. We get to see the democratic process take place in probably its purest way that you can without having the awfulness of a direct democracy and everything. Does that
Well,
make
this
sense?
is a representative form as well, because the
Oh yeah.
process through the caucuses and you elect delegates to go represent your precincts, which is a representative setup.
Hmm.
So at the local level, in our case, it's the townships. Each township picks who their delegates are going to be to the county convention. County conventions to pick their delegates who are going to be at the CD convention and the state conventions. And that's a representative form of government.
Yeah.
And that's as grassroots as you can be. And it comes down to, can you articulate to the delegates your compelling reasons why this should take place or that should take place, or vote for me or vote for this guy or whatever? And the body makes the decision.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, how many times did you hear the word grassroots at the convention?
Um, it does seem to get overused a little bit,
Yeah.
but and I think it's indicative of another. thing that we see in politics across the country. It's not
Oh, it's
just
the
in
use of
Minnesota.
buzzwords. You
Well,
see
it
it
is kind
everywhere.
of a buzzword, but you see more and more people getting active, right? There's more and more people getting involved. And where are they coming from? Which is, kind of where the term comes from. It comes from the base, comes from
Mhm.
the grassroots, the very bottom of the process of getting involved. So we hear it a lot. I agree. Sometimes it's probably overused. But like I said yesterday, when we look at the outcome of those votes, it wasn't all new people into the positions, into the exec board, into the vice chairs, into the other positions there, treasurer. There was some new people that were elected. Some were, you know, had held those positions before. So it was a nice mix.
Yeah, no, definitely the results I thought was a good mix. There's a lot of interesting things coming. I can tell that much for sure. Looking ahead, just with
Well, and I
with that mix.
and I
So,
think there's always some apprehension when there's change like this. But now it's
mhm.
really up to that leadership board. What are they going to promote moving forward? Are they going to promote unity? Are they going to promote coming together? Let's take our energy and let's focus it on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah,
And because I believe our ideas, our arguments are better than the alternative. So we need to focus that attention on winning races in the state of Minnesota, on flipping the state. As a House member, I went from the trifecta to now we're in a tie. I want to see a trifecta the other way. I want to see state candidates. I want to see a governor candidate come up, very soon, hopefully here, maybe after the end of session, early summer, that says, I want to run for office. Um, that would be great. Attorney General position, Secretary of State, all of those statewide races. We've also got some that are running for Senate that have thrown their hat in the ring already. We need to get some of those good candidates to publicly say they're going to run. We need to, they need to work basically, start fundraising, pressing the flesh, kissing the babies, whatever it takes, so that
yeah. Well, the nice
next
thing is that it's not an election year in 2025, so you basically have, was it March right now, April? You have essentially 8 months to prep and just get prepared for election campaign season. So it's if you're getting ready or if that's something you want to do, it's a great time to just get started. Just setting that base work, maybe establishing like a war chest, as I've heard. Just a very good time. And I think with this the way that CD7 went this year, this last weekend, that there's going to be a lot more unity going forward for these candidates. I guess I'm feeling a little bit optimistic towards that end, but a year is a long time, especially in politics.
that it is. And you bring that up, a candidate can get their name out there, build their war chest, name recognition, all those things. Look at what Comrade Walls is doing. He's not here in the state of Minnesota trying to make sure that we balance our budget. He's not here trying to help the legislators figure out the looming crisis, the debt problem that we have in our state. He is campaigning. He is actually putting in the time now for his presidential run next
Next
time
four
around.
years.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because he's
Exactly what
campaigning
he's
in other
doing.
states,
He is.
which
If he
it's
was
kind of
concerned, if he was concerned about running for governor, he would be
mhm,
campaigning here. He would be going
right.
all through greater Minnesota trying to build up support, but he's not. He's in other states. So what does that dictate? Or what does that indicate? It
It
means he's
indicates that
going to be running.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's trying something out of the state. But
exactly.
yeah, Walls, he's an idiot walking around.
He's a
But
knucklehead.
same thing. But yeah, no, I
Well,
think
politics.
today we just wanted to talk mainly about CD7 and just kind of like quick update. We got some interesting stuff going on. Again, we got a race coming on that we got to talk about like next week, right? So for campaigns and SD6.
SD6, we're going to be talking to some individuals or an individual from over there, um, get their take on that race and how things are going over there. And that's really a short time frame for a
Yeah.
Senate race.
But a very important time frame because that will huge impact on the state Senate and stuff that happens at the state level.
Absolutely. Now, any of those candidates, they have to really step up.
Yeah.
You know,
And how'd you describe it the other day? A dumpster fire of a campaign?
I said that is a dumpster fire of a campaign. It really is. Every one
Well,
of those candidates.
that's true. It's got to be really hard, especially when you're filling a spot that was vacated by a child predator.
Exactly. So think about that. You are automatically connected with someone who has done this. Think about that. Even if you had no connection with them before, you're going to be filling a vacant seat from a person who is charged with pedophilia,
Yeah,
soliciting pedophilia. Whether you're a good person or not, your name will automatically be associated with that.
yeah.
I,
That's
I
gonna
think
be that's just an uphill battle from every direction. But
it
that's
is
what we'll probably be getting into the next week or so, next 2 weeks.
right. How does a candidate navigate that?
Yeah.
It is, like I said, it is a dumpster fire.
Mhm. But something to look forward to. And I think today we're going to keep it quick, keep the episode short. So thank you all so much for watching Pints and Politics. As always, Representative Mike Weiner and Drew Peterson. God bless.
Take care.